All right, now I'm going to explain how to draw an ogive. An ogive is a type of relative frequency polygon. What's special about it is it shows cumulative. So cumulative means we are going to keep adding on and adding on and adding on. So we're going to look first. Our ogive starts at 0 and ends at 1, which means that all of our numbers are going to be decimals. And our histogram is already given to us in decimal form, so we do not have to do any transformations in this case, which is nice and easy. So when we're at 0, we are at 0. We always start at 0, 0. We do not put any frequency at 0. We start at our first endpoint. Our first endpoint is 6. So at 6, we have 0.12. So I'm going to push the graphing button. I type in 0.12 and I draw the dashed line. That dashed line automatically goes exactly where I need it to. And you can see when I drag up the 6, it's at 0.12. As I said before, we are going to be doing a cumulative frequency, which means we are going to be adding on. So at 12, we're not just looking at the 0.32, we're looking at these two numbers added together. You can add them together in your head, or you can use your calculator if it's a little bit easier. You have your Alex calculator for this problem. Mine's not popping up, so I'm going to use my Desmo Scientific calculator. So I put in 0.12 plus 0.32. I get 0.44. Again, I go to my drawing line, 0.44, draw the dashed line, and drag up at 12. My next endpoint is at 18, and that's another 0.32 added on. So now it's all three of these numbers added together. So I'm going to put a plus 0.32, and now I'm at 0.76. So again, draw the dashed line, 0.76, drag it from 18 to 0.76. At 24, we're going to add on 0.12. Now I'm at 0.88, draw the dashed line, type in 0.88. At 24, we are at, make sure that you are hitting the correct line. So if you look, if I'm not careful, I accidentally hit 0.9. So make sure you are putting it exactly on 0.88. And then when we get to our last endpoint, our final endpoint, we should be at our total. Our total is always going to be the highest number, 100%, in this case, 1. So I do not have to add on the 12. It will be at 1. If you want, you can double check. So if I add on the 0.12, I end up at 1. If I didn't end up at 1, I would know that I made a mistake. I'm going to check that, and then we'll look at another example. So if we look at this example, we are still looking at an ogive that goes from 0 to 1, but the difference in this problem is our histogram does not have decimals. So we are going to have to figure out what each of these is every time. So our first one, instead of being 6, it is going to be 6 divided by the total, the ratio. So 6 divided by 50. I can use my Desmos calculator. I get 0.12. So again, my first line at -10, that starts at 0. My next line, my next endpoint at 0 is at 0.12. Draw the dashed line and drag up to 0.12. Next, we have 7. Again, it's not a 7. It's going to be adding on a 7 out of 50. And now I have 0.26. Draw the dashed line, drag up the 0.26. Next, 13. Again, I'm not adding a 13. I'm adding a 13 over 50 because there are 50 numbers total. Now I'm at 0.52. Draw the dashed line. Drag it up to 0.52. Again, make sure I almost hit just the 0.5. So you have to make sure you're very careful that you actually hit the number that you're trying to. Next, we have 10. So adding on 10 over 50. Now I'm at 0.72. Draw the dashed line. 0.72. Then I'm adding on a 9. 9 over 50. Now I'm at 0.9. And then again, my last number should be at 1 because that's the total 100% or 1 full. But I'm going to double check it and put in a plus 5 over 50 to make sure I did it correctly. And I end up with a 1, so I know that I did. One more example. When we look at this example, our ogive does not go from 0 to 1. It does not have decimals. We're looking at the actual total. So there are 20 numbers total. So we are just going to do a cumulative frequency, adding these numbers without anything special. So our first one, again, 200 is at 0. There's nothing before 200. At 400, we are at 4. And there's already a 4 here, so I don't have to push the dash line. I just put the number at 4. Oops, 400. Our next number is 4 plus 3, which is at 7. So 600 should have 7 numbers. I do need a dash line for that. So I just type in a regular 7, draw the dash line. Our next one, we had 7. Now we're going to add on another 4, which is 11. Again, I need a dash line because I don't have one, just a regular 11. No decimals at 11. I'm going to add on another 7, so I'm at 18. I'm going to have to draw the dashed line again. And then my last number should be at 20. 18 plus 2 is 20, so I know that I added correctly.